Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. Hope you guys are ready for a good night. Check this crap out. This is the power of the United States military, all the way down off the shores of Venezuela, where reports are now saying that we have upwards of, 30+% of our naval freaking firepower, deployable fleet that's down there. And they're stating that they have actually revoked the leave. So nobody's getting leave over Christmas holidays, and they're all down there. And there's rumors flying around that the United States might actually has either started attacking or maybe attacking Venezuela. And I think all of that's probably coming because we have all of this going on here. We have got B-52s traveling right off the coast of Venezuela. Just the other day, the United States actually ended up dumping a NOTAMs or a no-fly zone warning aircraft over off Venezuela. Hey, don't go over here, military operations, etc. But we've had some B-52s. Basically, our bombers have been down over inside of that region with obviously a big buildup going on over there. And then on top of all of that, which we're going to get here, what we're going to get to here in a little bit is this, which is going to be Ukraine launching the largest attack in frickin' since like the war has started, I think, over on Russia. Now, that is if you were to take away the drones that ended up getting launched out of the backs of the trucks and going over and just smashing it and everything. And an anonymous source ended up telling me that somewhere between 500 and 1,000 munitions ended up getting launched over at Russia. Kyiv's got a little bit smashed up as well, but Russian airfields are getting freaking hammered, man. I mean, you're talking about a lot of aerial munitions that are flying over there, and Ukraine's actually taken out some of Russians' freaking key aircraft. We're going to talk about that as well. And Border Patrol, just lined up over at frickin' taco shop over inside of Los Angeles, going up and checking IDs. So all that stuff's going around the U.S. is normal. I love seeing Border Patrol going over to taco shops and frickin' smashing people. But probably, I don't know, one of my most happiest moments, Seb Gorka ended up putting this out just a little bit earlier, and he said that he just left Trump's office, and they are, in fact, going to be designating the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terror organization. Thank fricking God. The United States will finally designate the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terror organization. All their money can fricking suck off. CARE is about to have a huge wide awake, I believe, inside of the executive order. If I remember correctly, they gave them basically 30 days to come up with a plan and implementation and everything like that on it. It hasn't been signed yet, but they told to go out. But the biggest story that is just kind of like flooding around everywhere, which is absolutely like unprecedented as far as I know for what's going on. Chris Hinckliffe coming and gifting out a Speak the Truth membership is this. The Department of War ended up dropping this randomly at frickin' what time? 12, about noon, right? Eastern Standard Time. Department of War ends up posting this crap, catches a senator off guard, catches America off guard. Says the Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, U.S. Navy retired, otherwise known as Senator Kelly. Says in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, 10 U.S.C. 688 and other applicable regulations, a thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. Now, all of this is coming from that freaking video that the Democrats ended up releasing, saying that you can refuse illegal orders or you need to refuse illegal orders. I forget how they stated it, but it's going to make sense to you here in just a little bit when I go over this. But if you didn't know, if you are receiving retired military pay, you are subject still to the UCMJ. So myself, I'm retired. They can call me back and frickin' slap me with the UCMJ. Now, they're not going to do it for one little tiny thing. I see it in the comment. Assman's calling him a space fobbit. And some of you guys, GFC, one core commercial. I might slant this channel as liberal, LOL. Oh, I am so sorry that you ended up getting the freaking liberal stuff, but I can actually end up taking care of that for you. Jude Chase coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Tell you what, do you guys a favor. I'll go ahead and I'm just going to turn that off for you guys right freaking now and save you guys. If they're going to slam us with liberal commercials, by golly, we're just going to go ahead and turn them off. They can kiss our butt. Probably kills freaking viewership anyway, so why the hell not? All right. Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offenses and federal laws such as 18 U.S. Code 23787, prohibiting actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. All service members are reminded that they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. A serviceman's Personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise lawful order. And he's absolutely correct. The Department of War is absolutely correct to come out and do it. In my opinion, they're absolutely correct in order to smash them. And we go over and look at Title 10 U.S. Code, or basically Article 94 of the UCMJ, which is what Trump accused him of, mutiny or sedation. Well, let's take a look here. Any person subject to this chapter who, with intent to usurp or override lawful military authority, refuses in concert with any other person to obey orders, otherwise duty, blah, 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 creates any violence or disturbance, guilty of mutiny. Don't think we got to mutiny. With intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of lawful civil authority, creates in concert with any other person revolt, violence, or other disturbance against that authority, is guilty of sedition. And then lastly, fails to do his utmost to prevent and suppress a mutiny or sedition being committed in his presence. Or fails to take all reasonable means to inform his superior commissioned officer or commanding officer of a mutiny or sedition which he knows or has reason to believe is taking place, is guilty of a failure to suppress or report a mutiny or sedition. Person found guilty of attempted mutiny, blah, 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 or failure to suppress or report shall be punished by death or such other punishment as court-martial may direct. Everybody thought Trump was being over the top when he ended up bringing up and saying sedition and death. No, that's a very real thing. These are very real laws, very much punishable here in the United States of America. And if you are subject to the UCMJ, like myself or Senator Kelly, you might find yourself in freaking hot water if you don't do it correct. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of people that are throwing it out there. They're just coming out and they're saying, well, all he said was what the UCMJ states. God, the amount of idiots I've actually heard state that. Jude Chase, it wouldn't let me send a message with my 5 gifted memberships, so Merry Christmas. Well, thank you, Jude. Merry Christmas to you, sir. We're kind of early. We don't start saying Merry Christmas until Thanksgiving passes. We're not quite there yet. Jason Carmichael says that. Keep up the good work. Oh, Jason. So here is, we're going to get into this here. This is, what's his dang name? Wolf Blitzer going after freaking this lady, trying to, again, play the game. This is the narrative that they're trying to spin to the unwitting, stupid American public that doesn't know a dang thing about how any of this works.
I just want to be precise, Congresswoman. Should members of the U.S. military or the intelligence community, for that matter, obey what are clearly illegal orders if in their mind what they're being told to do is something illegal? Should they still go ahead and follow those rules?
You're asking an enlisted person for their opinion on what they think is legal or illegal. That's a pretty slippery slope. Wouldn't you agree with that? So that's an interpretation. And what the president has done is not illegal, right? So I would say follow the chain of command. Follow your commander in chief. That's the oath that you took. Because if you leave everything up to interpretation, you could interpret things one way. I could interpret things another way. And that.
Yeah. So he asked this freaking question to this lady. Now, no, if it's a legal order, just because you think it's illegal doesn't make it illegal. What that gives you the authority to do as a service member is things like, I don't know, if I ordered some of my guys back in the day to just start murdering random civilians, they have the obligation and duty to tell me, Matt, we're not doing that. We're not going to murder random people. That's what that means. And you don't have to tell a service member that. So the question that I would propose that Wolf and all these other retards that are out there are failing to freaking ask is, why did all of these senators, feel the need to actually restate the obvious, what everybody else knows? Do you mean that that the entire world, that the United States military was so lost under Hegseth's guidance that they had to put together a video just to let the military members know, hey, you don't have to follow illegal orders? Well, let's listen to somebody that has a little bit more common sense, a retired colonel that goes by the name of Rob Maness.
Hi, friends. This is retired Air Force Colonel Rob Maness of the Rob Maness Show. And I just wanted to speak to the seditious six, but namely to U.S. Senator, retired U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly, about their video that they did, which crossed a line. Now, I'm not going to talk about my combat decoration. Not going to talk about the fact that I was in the Pentagon on 9/11
Don't need to.
or helped with the war on terror or commanded
Irrelevant.
a squadron. But I am going to talk about as a senior officer commander at the full colonel level wielding court-martial.
Yep.
And under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 94, former retired Captain Kelly could be guilty of sedition.
No.
Because it's defined as creating revolt, violence, or disturbance against lawful civil authority in concert with others with the intent to overthrow or destroy that authority. Where did their video cross the line? Well, it's what it didn't have in it that crossed the line. Look, I have many times recommended that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians and Coast Guardsmen not obey unlawful orders in the context of what I thought was an unlawful order, namely recently the COVID vaccine order that was deemed unlawful by the current Secretary of War and his staff. And it was unlawfully implemented. This crowd, Senator Kelly, who is their leader, didn't specify an order. That means their video is a call to mass insubordination, the destruction of the authority of the commander-in-chief and those appointed by him to lead the armed forces of the United States. It is
Oh no, Mitch, I got you. I got you the proof,
law,
Mitch.
both civilian and military, to encourage mass insubordination for the lawful orders of the President of the United States. They have recently been questioned as to what the unlawful order was and can't name one.
Oh, they did. He named one.
Folks in Congress, especially, you need to take action here. And I'm glad to see Secretary of War Hegseth investigate retired U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly for his actions. They are despicable. That was my first thought, and I saw that in Secretary Hegseth's tweet about it. They're despicable because the young men and women, especially the youngest, while they are trained not to obey unlawful orders, they are also told that just because they disagree with an order doesn't make it unlawful. And that's what this seditious six people were doing, is encouraging massive subordination based on their political beliefs or their opinions that something they are told to do by this president, the commander-in-chief, and their officers appointed over them is illegal because they think it is, instead of knowing that it's unlawful, like the COVID-19 vaccine or the My Lai order to kill civilians by the lieutenant that was there.
Correct.
Obviously, those were unlawful orders. You should not follow them. But nothing this president has done has been an unlawful order, and the seditious six failed to name one. They should all be investigated under the appropriate laws, but especially retired U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly's got like a different threshold and standard. The other people that were on there that are military veterans, they're not retired. So it's not like they're seeking out Mark Kelly because they don't want to deal with the other ones. No, he is the only retired member. The other one was in the agency, so they can't go after that person. But Kelly, though, he's actually subject to the UCMJ. Still, as a retiree, he's subject to the UCMJ. They can grab him and they could pull his butt back to frickin' active duty and they can try him. Heard Leavenworth has room ready for Mark Kelly. That's right. And here's the thing. The old saying of 1 oh shit ruins 100 attaboys absolutely applies in this case. I don't care if he flew 39 combat missions over Iraq during the Gulf War. I don't care if he jumped on a freaking rocket and piloted it up into like the freaking outer space. And it's actually not even outer space. It's like in Earth orbit, but whatever. But I don't care if he did all that crap. It doesn't matter. What matters are the actions that he took. That same argument that people are pushing, trying to say, well, look at all of his exemplary service record, is the same retarded argument that people are trying to make with illegal aliens here in the United States of America, going, well, their only crime was entering the United States of America. Yeah, it's a crime. It's a crime. And there's people literally out there today going, only X amount of the people had violent offenses here in America. ICE is deporting all of these nonviolent offenders. ICE wasn't designed to deport violent offenders. They were designed to deport everybody, just like the UCMJ applies to everybody, including a Navy pilot turned freaking astronaut. It doesn't matter. When you're retired from the Navy, you're still subject to the UCMJ. And that's what he's facing. And a lot of you guys, I see you down there stating, oh, well, I don't understand how he would go over and do it. And I found this post by Infantry Dort. And I figured that this is a good segue into exactly what the hell they ended up saying that means and what they wanted people to do. And it's very relevant to this day. But first, let's go over with their rally cry that they ended up putting in the video. Don't give up the ship. Here is the background to it. They were the dying order of a Captain James Lawrence, mortally wounded on the deck of the USS Chesapeake, bleeding out as musket fire tore through his crew and British sailors boarded his ship. He said it while being carried below, unable to stand, knowing the battle was lost, and refusing to surrender anyways. It was not advice, it was defiance in the face of annihilation. So the message shifts. What sounded like a harmless civics reminder becomes a battlefield injunction. The tone changes from follow the law to something that smells like a pre-selected resistance. That's how people read it and why so many alarms went off. Now, the same lawmakers are sprinting to cameras, insisting purity of the motive, claiming that the last line of defense for the Constitution. But here's the truth they don't want to confront. The military is not suffering a crisis of obedience. And when thousands of service members refused actual legal orders just a few years ago, they were purged with zero support from the faces in that video. The words they quoted were born in smoke, blood, and splintered oak. It was a dying commander demanding his men fight to the last breath. So when lawmakers borrow that cry to frame their message, it stops being a civics lesson and becomes a call to battlefield struggle. And that is not their theater to play in. If you use a war cry, don't act surprised when people hear war in it. And yes, this painting is an artistical depiction of the exact moments Lawrence uttered those words, and it sure as hell doesn't look like the halls of Congress. So it is a message that they ended up putting out by stating, don't give up the ship. It is a call to action to not give up the ship. And they knew that in doing so, they would be prosecuted. Probably Kelly, the most experienced out of them all with the UCMJ, knew that that crap would absolutely apply to him. It is a battle cry that they ended up calling out for. Now, with that in mind, we're not even switching topics. I want you to hear this on Chicago.
Hey, John, it was a big weekend to kick off the holidays here in Chicago, and they couldn't get through it without more shocking violence. Bloodshed at the tree lighting ceremony. That 14-year-old you mentioned, his name was Armani Floyd. He was killed. The coroner ruled his death was caused by multiple gunshot wounds. He was shot near the Dirksen Federal Building, where we cover so many of those trials, and that shooting was the second of two shootings that evening. About an hour earlier, right on State Street, about 10 p.m. in front of the historic Chicago Theater, gunfire broke out. 7 people were shot. Their ages range from 13 to 17. Now, the shootings followed a trend called a teen takeover, where young people post something on social media, then they swarm an area. Kids reportedly had shown up from southern as well as northern suburbs and the city itself. The alderman of that ward says the teenagers were rioting. Right now, it is not known what sparked the gunfire, and it's not known if the two shootings are connected. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson again placed blame on the availability of guns, but this time he did seem to accept some blame, and he blamed the kids who swarmed downtown.
Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media.
No suspects are in custody. A Chicago police officer was injured. We're waiting on an update of his condition. And CPD official numbers for the weekend are out. 28 people were shot. 4 people were killed by gunfire. 1 person died from a stabbing. John, back to you.
Mike Tobin for us in Chicago. Mike, thank you. Now to Gianna.
28 people shot, 4 people killed, 1 stabbed to death, and Trump is now screaming about sending frickin' National Guard troops back into Chicago to take back control of the city. CBP, DHS, like rounding up illegals, didn't frickin' do it. And Trump earlier this year had stated that he was going to end up sending them in. Now, here's one of those seditious six being questioned about what orders were illegal. Now, I just described to you what happened in Chicago. How many people shot, how many people killed, how many people stabbed to death. And the lawmakers there, the freaking police force is incapable or unwilling to protect the people of Chicago. And the U.S. courts have already affirmed that the president has the right to send in the National Guard to take care of problems as he sees fit. It's not on senators. It's nobody else. It's literally his executive authority in order to do that. And when you're in the National Guard, you get called to federal orders. You get federalized because the National Guard gets money from the federal government, sends them through the freaking training, and then they end up getting pulled up underneath the freaking federal government, i.e. they are under no longer the governor, but they're under the orders of the United States military and the commander in chief. Now, one of those seditious six decided on being questioned about what illegal orders have been given so far by the president. I played this video before for you guys if you've been around. Now it's going to start to ring a little bit more true.
Don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
asking specifically right now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
asking
Listen to it again.
Number one,
right now
number two,
what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very...
Yeah, because you have people being murdered, lots of them, shot over the weekend. What do you think the National Guard is going to do when they go in and they get shot at? See, this is exactly why they made that video. This. In addition to Venezuela, this is exactly why they made that video. I want to say his name is Senator Blumenthal. Ended up putting out a request to basically have all of the intelligence leaked or brought forward for all of the different strikes that have been taking place against these different cartel boats leaving Venezuela because they don't think it's legal. They think it's illegal. I actually put together an entire list of all of the senators, all of the freaking reps that came out and said that, number one, the U.S. strikes on Iran back in June were somehow illegal and or unconstitutional, thereby making them illegal, saying that the president's not allowed to do that. That's not the case whatsoever. And also bringing up Venezuela and stating that the current war inside Venezuela, like the war against the cartels down there, is somehow illegal because Trump just decided the cartels were terrorists. No, they fit the definition. Marco Rubio ended up making them freaking terrorists. And then Trump, using his executive authority that was given to him by Congress and the American people, started directing and executing those powers because that's his job. That's it. They don't like it. And so they're putting out videos trying to state you don't have to follow illegal orders while naming attacking Iran's illegal, attacking cartels, leaving Venezuela's illegal, sending in the National Guard to American cities. Illegal. No, that is seditious behavior. And for those that have asked, the punishment for that is death. Now, the court martial probably isn't going to put a retired colonel, or I'm sorry, a retired captain from the Navy and an astronaut to death. What they'll probably do is strip him of his rank, throw him in the brig for like 30 days, and then send him back to the frickin' Senate or wherever he came from. I have no idea. I am so freaking pissed because what they're doing is going to cost people their lives. You have people, and I want you to hear me out. And for those of you that have never served in the military, maybe you don't understand this. But even losing 5, 10 people out of a platoon or a company, and then you start throwing in different leadership positions because they go, well, the senator said these are illegal orders and I don't have to obey them. Look, here's a Colorado state rep, a Colorado federal rep, national TV, sending the National Guard in to frickin' Chicago, illegal. People are being murdered. Trump says we're going to war with Chicago. No, I mean, clearly it's going to war with the gangs and all of that crap that's going on in Chicago. And his hyperbolic speech, it's not meant to be a literal translation. This guy knows that. But what happens when the National Guard defects? Have we already seen that prior to this? Yes, we have. We've seen commissioned officers, warrant officers, NCOs, all sorts of crap all over social media stating that if Trump tries to send us, we're not going. We're not going into Portland. We're not going into Chicago. We're not going into freaking Charlotte. We're not going to New York City. We're not doing any of that crap because it's illegal. We don't agree with this order. Well, it's not what you agree with, and it's not what you feel is legal. It's what's actually legal versus what is not. And you can get tried for it, just like Mark Kelly can get tried under the UCMJ as a retiree for seditious behavior. Why? Because he's a colonel. He gets his freaking money from the military and the government. He knows better. And you can't come back and state that he doesn't feel that he's a colonel anymore. Has anybody looked at his social media profile besides me? Because I sure have. Let's go and take a look at that. I just want to pull it up for you guys as it ends up coming up. Why? Because he literally still, to this day, did he change it? Did he update it? I could swear it said Colonel. Oh, maybe this is his official account. Excuse me. It said Colonel. Maybe it's his personal account. There still goes by Colonel. Earlier I was looking at him, literally said Colonel. I feel like maybe the heat has got to him if that's the case. Now I'm just curious. Oh, I'm sorry. Not Colonel. My bad. Not Colonel. Captain. I was wrong. He's got it up as Captain. So he still goes by his rank. And for those of you guys that don't know, when you're retired, you can still call yourself by your rank. It's just gay, and I don't think anybody should do it, but people do it. And clearly this guy thinks that he can do it. Well, guess what, Captain? If you're going to have that rank up there, and I keep calling him Colonel because Captain is like the Army equivalent of Colonel, and that's where like my brain's going for a Navy officer. U.S. Navy Captain, correct. I keep calling him Colonel. Look, field grade officer, Captain, Colonel, equivalent across the Army to the Navy. Navy's freaking weird. Navy's gay is what it is. But it's a pretty high-ranking officer. And it's the equivalent of the same colonel that I just had on, Rob Maness, that was talking specifically about how this guy should know better. And he still calls himself captain, even though he is technically a senator, Mark Kelly. OG Banana Gang, 3 years, subscribe to your member. Keep up the good work. Thanks, brother. Personally, I think the dude needs to get freaking smashed. Honestly, I think he is. And by the way, that's just Chicago that we're talking about. I mentioned earlier Venezuela, didn't I?
I want to ask you, because of your position on Homeland Security, you may have some insight into the drug cartels. You are also on Senate Foreign Relations, and it is tomorrow that the Trump administration officially will designate the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. That's the cartel the Trump administration says is linked to Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Secretary Hegseth says it gives the administration new tools. Nothing's on or off the table, he says, militarily. Legally, what changes tomorrow? What becomes possible?
I think by doing this, they're pretending as if we are at war. They're pretending as if they've gotten some imprimatur to do what they want. When you have war, the rules of engagement are lessened. So, for example, we normally don't shoot boats that we suspect of being drug dealers. In fact, if the Coast Guard tomorrow...
Well, Mr. Rand Paul, and again, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to the verbiage that's being put out. They're not drug dealers. They're officially terrorists.
Started shooting all vessels that are off of Miami or off of San Diego. About 1 in 4 of the vessels that they normally board doesn't have drugs. So it actually would be unlawful if the Coast Guard started blowing up boats. But for some reason, they say, oh, we're at war off the coast of Venezuela. And so it's a different rule of engagement. It's one of war. But, you know, Senator...
Yeah, let's talk about why they're, Mr. Rand Paul. Because out in Venezuela, you don't have people from Cuba trying to swim their way to the coast of Florida. It's completely and totally different. We also have 30% of our deployable naval forces down there that bring massive intelligence assets with it on top of everything else. Jude, I'm with you on the naval rank, man. It's freaking lame. I hate it. But you also have 30% of our naval assets down there gathering intel on all of these different boats. Not to mention, we end up authorizing black ops inside of Venezuela just a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, we've got way more intel than on some freaking dinghy boat that's coming over from Cuba.
Kane and I brought this up, and we said if it's war, let's declare it as war. Let's have this discussion. Is it war or not? And the administration refused that. They want to have it both ways. They want to say, oh, we can just say these people are terrorists or narco-terrorists, so we can blow them up. But it's extraordinary that when some of them survive, they pluck them out of the water. They don't prosecute them for drugs. They don't collect drugs. They don't tell us if they were armed or not. They just send them back to their country.
When they pluck them out of the water. So when they get blown out of their boat, magically they don't have guns on them, and they're able to pick them up and send them back to Venezuela. No kidding. No kidding. And you don't think maybe some tactical questioning may have been taking place there? You don't think any of that crap? Yeah, they're getting blown up. That is a fact. Where did it go? Ended up seeing it. Good evening, Matt. I got the time wrong again. Oh, Linda Lou. No, I ended up advancing the time forward, I guess, or backwards, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm feeling out this time. I might want to start going back to this time here. I'd tried out the 5 p.m. thing, or what is it, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time thing for a while. Didn't really work out. So now I'm pushing it to 9 because, honestly, I think I like it better. It is more natural, normal for me. It gives me more time to prepare. So I think I'm actually going back to this. 502 Outlaw. Good evening, friend. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, this guy, freaking moron. You blow people out of their freaking boats. And obviously, you're going to pluck them out of the water. You're going to want to talk to them. You're going to want to gather intel. You're going to want to get as much information as you can. And no, we're not going to send them to Guantanamo Bay. That's what we are not going to do.
Most of the time not being Venezuela. They've sent one back to Colombia and one back to Ecuador, but nobody's making any pretense of even interviewing them to find out who's selling you the drugs. Maybe we could find out who the...
Because you're an idiot. Do you think the guys that are on the boat are the ones that are making the money? Especially as 30% of the United States Navy is down there? No. The guys on the boats are not the ones that are making all of the money and buying and selling and flipping. They're being told, go from point A to point B, try not to die in the meantime. Mad Army Vet says this time it makes it easier for me to attend since I have my kiddos in bed.
Kingpins are.
Well, I'm sold, Mad Army Vet. I'm sold for you.
Word. And I've been given zero, not one briefing because I'm skeptical of what they're doing. They don't brief me or the General Senate at all.
They don't have to.
A few hand-selected people may have gotten a briefing, but I have not been invited to any briefings on Venezuela.
Oh, no. Rand Paul wasn't invited to briefings on Venezuela. Therefore, he doesn't understand what's going on. And even if he was, they also don't have to disclose a dang thing to Rand Paul. That's what we have all of the different panels and stuff like that are put together for up in Congress. Not Rand Paul specifically, but everybody. Like we have specific committees for that stuff, not just Rand Paul. Now, I ended up telling you guys, this is a problem when it comes down to specifically what's taking place over there, over off the coast of Venezuela. Because, again, B-52s coming danger close to the shorelines of Venezuela. No TAMs put into effect. Notice to air traffic missions. Don't fly around here. Military operations. Even at cruising altitude, you might get freaking hurt. Don't do that. Stay away. That happened just a couple days ago. 30% of the Navy. And we have a sitting senator, retired Navy captain, former astronaut, along with former military members from the Senate and the House that are sitting there telling people not to abandon the boat, hold it at all costs, and not to follow illegal orders. Imagine that. The same day that they ended up coming out and dropping that video is the same day that NOTAMs went up, if my memory serves me correct. Imagine that. Jay Bartolotto says he's an idiot and should just stay a doctor and stay the F out of it. Sorry, his feelings are hurt. I don't care about his feelings. I care about the men and women of the armed services and making sure everything actually goes through. God forbid they actually want to get some freaking crap done and their fire support goes, this is probably an illegal order. I'm just going to let my brothers and sisters die. Dude, kiss off. They knew exactly what they were doing. Gordon, I certainly hope that Gabbard and Ratcliffe are having a serious look at Slatkin's retired CIA involvement and agenda. Did she really retire? If she did, there is likely some applicable law that would end up applying to her. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, but I know that the UCMJ is very strict and it's very straightforward. And let's say they don't hit him with 94. They could hit him with 134. The general catch-all, anything bringing like going against good order and discipline of the United States military. Very lesser offense. It doesn't bring a death penalty, and he's likely not going to get death anyways. They're just going to strip him of his retirement benefits, make a freaking example out of him, and all that other crap. But at the end of the day, when the U.S. is about to, and I don't agree with it, but I also understand that Russia and China are involved in Venezuela along with Maduro, and I get all of that. They need to get their asses out of our hemisphere and get back to where they belong. However, aside from that, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is legal, whether I like it or not. Now, add into that Trump has came out and he has been stating that he wants to bring an end to the Ukraine war. And you have that 28-point frickin' plan that fails, right? Like it ain't going anywhere. Well, just the other day, Russia again had launched the largest attack over on Ukraine. Hundreds of drones, dozens of freaking cruise missiles, killed multiple civilians, took out apartment complexes, and all that other crap. And tonight, Ukraine answered back. What I've been told is that over 500 munitions, 500 munitions have been fired over at Russia tonight. 500.
Ебать, она рычит. Пацаны.
I just got to let this play for a hot minute up here on your screen because it looks so freaking rad. RDL Snare says, Matt, but it was okay when Barack took out Gaddafi in Libya. Sounds like TDS to me. Yep, nailed it. Yeah, all of Abdu, don't get me started on Obama right now. RDL, you're going to make me freaking lose it. I will lose it. He also killed an American, by the way. Do you think any of those senators came up or anybody else had jumped up and said, hey, Obama just killed an American on purpose in a drone strike over in Yemen? Do you think anybody said anything about that? Push for his constitutional rights? No, they did not. Husky Ninja, thanks for the great work. This is a perfect time for your show. Well, I guess I better get back to it then. Anyways, this, people were reporting this as a Ukrainian drone. The Russians were saying that this particular video was a Ukrainian drone. No, this is a Russia interceptor that ended up just steering way off course and smacking into an apartment building. That's actually what that is. And believe it or not, there's multiple angles to that sucker going in and smashing into the apartment building. Man, I think I had that other video in here, but what did I do with it? Did I put it in the wrong spot? Yeah, I did. Here's the other half of that. You guys actually, it was a little off camera, but check this out.
Ебать! Ты что, дура, блядь, бабу ебал? Алло, блядь! Ты что там? Бля, еще летит! Ебать! Ты что, дура, блядь, бабу ебал?
Now that I listen to that, it might be an actual drone. James Lewis coming to gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Anybody else loving hearing people cuss in a foreign language? Like, just kind of makes me laugh, like, deep down in my soul. But one of the major targets that Ukraine actually went over and after was a airfield. And boy, oh boy, did they freaking smash that sucker. They also went after the Bereave aircraft plant in Taganrog over in Rostov region. And you guys can actually see, let me get this up here for you. You guys can see like the munition strike like right back over here when this video starts playing, and you can see like the fire and stuff that's actually up there.
Полыхает так, что, блядь, не дай бог, зарево стоит, как будто после ядерного взрыва.
Jasmine's back!
Там пиздец. Полыхает так.
Ебать! Ебать!
Who puts these freaking compilations together, man? Who does this crap?
Ну, куда-то там же... Оба, она подлетает.
Yeah.
Он попал в здание! Едрать! Вот это толкнуло! Блин, вообще! Видео?
Mm-hmm.
Ну, куда-то там же... Оба, она подлетает. Он попал в здание! Едрать! Вот это толкнуло! Блин!
I love how delayed her reaction is in that video. Like, not even paying attention, like flash to bang. Like, yeah. They got a storage unit. No, they didn't get a storage unit. They got something much better than that. Brandon Bloom, 963 coming in, says, sent DM last week about illegals working on Navy contracts on 11/17 after you told me to on air. Did I? No, I did not get that. But I was also spent no BS, man, like an hour and a half yesterday, digging through DMs and trying to get caught up with that. Here's another view of the airfield of Ukraine ended up striking. You guys can see the fire burning over there, just freaking hammered that sucker. Again, anywhere between, and it's very unclear, anywhere between 500 to 1,200 munitions is what I'm hearing. But either way, it's about on par with Russia's attack that ended up getting shot over at Ukraine. And it looks like none of this crap is really getting swatted out of the sky. You guys are about to see some of Russia's brand new laser aerial defense systems and stuff like that that are going to be coming into play here. But this is a bit of an issue for those of you guys that don't know. What is it? Yesterday, we ended up having people over inside of Ukraine that was actually talking and bringing up the different peace plan and all that other crap, or not peace plan, but I don't know, negotiate. I don't even know how the hell you describe it. Look, like U.S. has no business negotiating that. I'll just say that first and foremost, but good on them for freaking trying. First thing I do on Matt's streams is hit the like. Thank you, Plastic Flamingo. Greatly appreciate it. Jasmine Rose, welcome back to being a true supporter. Here you go. Oh, come on, play. Play this. Danny, you made me laugh, man. Danny said, I speak fluent Russian. I'm learning new cuss words. That's amazing. Yeah. So they've got some airplane that Russia was busy developing, and they ended up having two. And we did the math. Hold on. It ended up costing, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Oh no, I closed it. Ended up costing Russia, I think it was like $1.3 billion per aircraft. And it's rumored right now that one of those ended up getting destroyed, and they had lasers on them, and it was supposed to be used for aerial defense. A couple other things, but yeah, allegedly that sucker ended up getting taken out on the runway. I might actually have a video of it on fire coming up here in a little bit, but that's, I mean, people are saying, yeah, it looks like Call of Duty and everything. No, it's not Call of Duty. Not even remotely close. What you're witnessing is a bunch of like aerial defense fires that are just freaking going off and blasting up in the sky. Like I said, 500 to 1,200, somewhere in there. And I know it's a huge variance, but all of this information is just little coming out. You guys got to understand, for Ukraine to actually launch an attack of this magnitude over on Russia, that is a pretty big deal. And they're targeting also port region over by Crimea as well.
Ну, куда-то там же... Оба, она подлетает. Он попал в здание! Едрать! Вот это толкнуло! Блин, вообще!
Love that.
Видео...
Look at that sucker.
Ну, куда-то там же... Оба, она подлетает.
Love that video. Accidentally double stacked that one. Holy freaking cow, man. I don't know how I did that. Here's another video of that airfield on fire over there. Let me get that up.
Да, самолет въебали. Ебать! Да, самолет въебали. Ебать!
It's 2 hits, and as that sucker's going off, you guys can actually see some of those freaking like small arms rounds and stuff zipping through the freaking air, going over and chasing these drones down. Talking hundreds of freaking drones. Obviously, their flamingos ended up going up and launching over there as well, going after some of those other targets. And you're talking minimum amounts of money for what they ended up destroying over in Russia. This is a closer view of the airfield that ended up getting hit. I see somebody say Ukraine is dark tonight. Yeah, Mary Dean. I mean, Ukraine's dark. You did have the attack on Kiev that was taking place. I did see some destruction that actually happened over inside of Kiev as well. I actually think I have some videos of that are coming up. But this is a huge blow for Russia. And what I'm thinking is going to happen if Russia's got the freaking munitions, and I'm pretty sure they do, is they're going to end up retaliating. And I think what you're witnessing now is an escalation away from those peace negotiations or peace deals. Now, it is possible that they're just trying to get in some final blows, but I highly doubt it, right? This is like people that thought that you could go into Gaza and negotiate with Hamas, which, by the way, isn't working out so good for them either. Right, like that whole freaking peace plan that everybody liked. Israel launched more airstrikes inside Gaza today because Hamas was setting up rockets and tons of other stuff. Also got a message. Excuse me. Also got a message from. I remember it was coming up, and you guys were asking me why we're not doing that fundraiser for GHF and getting them all of that stuff for the coffee and whatnot. And that is because specifically, I got told that they were likely going to be going out of business. And just so that you guys are aware, I did get a message from Chap and Fay, the spokesperson from there. But he said that it's basically over for them. GHF put out a statement that said, we've successfully completed our historic aid mission in Gaza after delivering 178 million free meals directly to civilians inside of Gaza. I asked him who's going to take over, and it's kind of unclear at this point in time. But it looks like some people from the UN are going to be going back in there. So I could only assume that means the war is going to continue to rage on because the UN is half the problem when it comes to funneling crap over into Gaza. So it looks like, in my opinion, with GHF being freaking pulled out of there and the UN going back in there, that Hamas is now going to get more weapon shipments. They're going to get more laundered money, all sorts of freaking crap. And Russia and Ukraine are starting to escalate, all on the freaking cusp of us about to bomb the crap out of Venezuela. Yeah, that's freaking gnarly, man. And you can see everything freaking exploding as they go about doing that up over there. Like I said, Kiev didn't go without fault. They ended up getting smashed tonight as well. Russia also ended up reporting and stating that Ukraine had attempted to plant an IED on a railway, and that they were able to, let me grab this video, and that they were able to kill/capture the Ukrainian saboteurs that were going and setting that up. Oftentimes you do have some things like this that are taking place when you have large scale operations like that are going on. When you have those huge airstrikes, it makes sense to send in some ground teams to go over and do that. These videos ended up getting released trying to claim that they ended up killing the saboteurs. Can't do the music, man. Music freaking kills me inside. You guys get the idea there of the people and what they did, but it's not very easy to blow up a bridge. I'll tell you that much. So they had to have had a buttload of explosives pulling up to that bridge if they plan on taking that sucker out. So that's they also ended up releasing some pictures that ended up going along with it. They claim that this is evidence that it was Ukraine doing it because the magazine says Slava Ukraini on it, so they're assuming that that's the reason, but it's also wrapped in red tape, maybe for live ammunition. Who knows? Definitely not marking that Russia ended up doing this, and people are blaming on everybody else, but they're claiming that these are saboteurs that ended up pulling up there to do it. I'm kind of wondering how the people ended up dying with guns in their hands when there's no bullets on the ground or anything like that. Some of that crap looked a little bit staged. Something just seems off about this one to me, to be honest, just from looking at the videos of this. So that's really all I'm going to say about that. But it would make sense if that was happening. Texas, red tape says Russia. Thanks, Texas. I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed that. Could mean live ammunition, but no, red tape to me says Russia. So either it could also be that they were, killed some freaking Russians and took their crap off of them. But yeah, why do they have red tape on there? Like I said, seemed a little bit freaking staged, seems a little bit freaking off to me. So if they are Ukrainian saboteurs, the only thing I could think of, which is alleged here, is that Ukraine had recruited and pushed these people to go over there and do that. The hand doesn't look real because there's blood drained out of it. It looks like there's plenty of blood on the ground to push and state that, whether you believe it or not. But yeah, allegedly, the people that conducted it were recruited by Ukraine in order to conduct it. But it doesn't make sense why they would write Slava Ukraina on their magazines if they were Russia. I don't know. You'd think they were just collecting a paycheck. Daniel Madsen says Russia stopped paying soldiers. Oil reserves are down 35%. Yeah, and their economy is actually taking a really big hit right now. I know a lot of people don't believe that, and they can choose not to believe it. But if you go over and you look at the pumps, and just out of curiosity, because this stuff does matter, I'm very curious. 58.77 is the current price for crude oil. 58.77. For Russia to remain profitable, that's got to be above 65. And right now it's sitting at 58.77. That also says January 26. So I don't know why it says January 26. Let's see if we can't find any more. Let's go and check that out. Nope. Checking over at crude oil prices today. It is 58.77 a freaking barrel. So Russia's bleeding money right now. For those of you guys that don't know, oil makes up about 30 to 35% of their GDP. And with it at 58.77, they can't keep up. It's just not cost effective for them to go out and do that freaking crap. And so Russia is going to be hurting really, really bad. 58.77 minus the Urals price. Yeah. Will the Russians still fight without pay? Yeah, because they just kill them. Like you. And by the way, these guys aren't that happy. They're over there and conscripted. Number that I was given the other day of actually killed. When it goes down to Russian killed, and this, I'll say I have this on good authority from a man that I trust, over 650,000 Russians. I know the number has been thrown out there above 1 million, but actually killed in action, 650,000 Russians. When you end up throwing the wounded number on top of that, it gets even freaking higher. You're crossing into the millions, right? So Russia has tore through its freaking force, conscripted more people than they can. They've got old men and everything else. They're also busy putting out freaking different videos and crap like that. And I think there is a huge misconception, and this is just really interesting. And I want to end on this by showing this to you guys. And it's a quote that I ended up pulling. I did a lot of research, and I kind of want to put like a whole video together on this, but I ended up writing a thread about it today over on Twitter. Danny says their shadow fleet is expanding together with Iran through Venezuela. Well, right. And it's not just that, but it's also the way that China starts funneling its people over into the U.S. So it's not just that. Shadow fleet's a problem, right? And by the way, China's got one as well. I saw that China had multiple like fishing vessels. It was like a dozen plus vessels that ended up getting blown off the coast of Indonesia today. So China's getting closer. Indonesia's getting pissed off and blowing off what they're calling Chinese spy boats. But I want to read to you guys this quote from the former director of the FBI, Christopher Wray. He says, foreign actors are actively trying to use social media platforms to influence Americans, sow discord, and in some cases, inspire violence. I took a deeper look, and I looked in because I remember hearing about this, and it was the establishment of the Foreign Malign Influence Center, or the FMIC, the United States Foreign Malign Influence Center, got authorized by Congress and then put together by the Director of National Intelligence, was actually the one that actually created the FMIC. And what they pay attention to is they pay attention to basically like foreign malign influence is like psyops, basically, that they're conducting on people. So malign influence, right? Like what can we do to kind of like try to direct the crowd, and how can we move them, and all of that other crap. We developed that in September of 2022, just a couple months after Russia decided it would be a good idea to invade Ukraine. Last year, we ended up coming out and stating that U.S. government had seized 32 different internet domains aimed at disrupting the USA's support for Ukraine. And that comes directly from U.S. government. So the U.S. government ends up seizing 34 different internet domains. Some of them were actually named and made to mimic sites like the Washington Post. So people would think that they're looking at the Washington Post when really they're not. Can't even bring that up. The other thing that the United States government ended up saying was that Russia was engaging, and not just Russia. It was, but in this case, it's Russia in particular. But the main players are Russia, Iran, and China. But Russia had engaged in a covert campaign to interfere in and influence the outcome of our country's elections. Now, that report came out in 2024, and that came out before Trump was actually inaugurated, elected in office, and all the other crap. But it is that they are literally trying to influence our elections. But wait, there's more. They're also trying to control everything that you see, everything that you hear, and all of that other crap. I told you guys about, and by the way, here's the press release from this about the Justice Department disrupting and bringing that down, and all of that's getting brought up by the FMIC. It's getting brought up by the DOJ, several other people. But, the internet was kind of shocked over this weekend. And I talked about it this morning about different accounts over on X that are discovering the countries of origin are not necessarily what you would think. Countries like this one, this is the general, ends up being actually based out of Turkey, allegedly, according to X, account based in Turkey. This is a big deal because this guy is constantly online over on Twitter, and he's constantly pushing like pro-white nationalism crap, but in a very KKK manner way. And the people that are coming up and the people that are bringing this information up, that are talking about it, are pushing violence in his spaces. I go in there and I freaking listen, and they're pushing violence. Other things that they end up doing is just pushing out a very race baiting media, like almost like Groper style media. U.S. firearms death by intent and race and ethnicity, black, non-Hispanic, white. They ended up putting out by homicide, suicide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, trying to divide races over here in the United States. But here's this one. Over 113 billion of our hard-earned cash has been stolen. Trump's demanding the classified Ukraine funding report go public. Critics warn it could tank both parties and land many lawmakers behind a bar. This comes from that site that's listed up there at the top that's labeled MAGA Nation. MAGA Nation. Now, where do you guys think that MAGA Nation actually ends up coming out of? Because I got news for you. It's not from the United States. All of these countries have these different malign actors, foreign influence freaking actors that are going over and pushing things over here in the United States of America. This is where we're getting our misinformation on Ukraine. This is where we're getting our misinformation on Israel. And oddly enough, in my opinion, I saw a post, or as a reply to a post that Nick Fuentes had done that had like an insane engagement rate. It was like 90+% engagement rate on his post. And for those of you guys that know social media, that's impossible, really, to be honest with you. Like, nobody gets 90+%. And so that would mean that you have bots that are targeting and pushing that style of content as well. So when you're asking how come people like this are blowing up, it's because bots are engaging and blowing up those freaking different posts, those different freaking viewpoints, and all of the other crap. But the scariest part is that they have also been used in the past to do active shooter attacks and things of that nature. So you've got misinformation, active freaking shooter. You've got like websites that are designed to look like American media. You've got influence on our election. You've got all of that crap that's going on. And we know, we don't assume, we know that Russia is targeting and doing this crap along with China and along with Iran. Danny says these are bot accounts on the dark web for the account age. Look at the amount of name changes. Right. But Danny, here's the thing though. It doesn't matter if they're bot accounts. That MAGA Nation account has over 400,000 followers. And they're from the EU. MAGA Nation actually came from, not from the EU, came from Eastern Europe, a non-EU country. Eastern Europe, non-EU country. In my opinion, that sucker is probably being ran by Russia. When we look at this right here, the Antioch high school shooting, happened January 22nd this year. The shooter in his manifesto and also in a voice recording ended up giving credit to a freaking foreign actor for pushing him to do it. It said he was acting on his behalf. My point being is that these different spaces that are over on Twitter, these different things that are all the way out there. Like this one in particular that I end up bringing up, like 130,000 sub or users, I think, or 130,000 followers, something like that, where he holds these big anti-racist freaking or anti every color but white nationalist space out of Turkey, pretending like he's here in America. What ends up happening is those end up being recruiting cesspools, and they find people that go in there and they speak and they take those people and they recruit them, and it goes into like this rapid accelerationalism, extremist acceleration. I'm trying to remember the dang term off the top of my head, but they take them and then just basically blast them out there and go over to do that. Yes, Jasmine, I can put out a brand new Discord link as soon as this is over. That's the big issue here. And so when all of this crap is going on in the world, when we have Venezuela, when we have Ukraine, when we have Israeli crap, which is kind of dying off, there's only so many Gazans that they can kill. When we have ICE and CBP, but we also have Mexico. We haven't talked about Mexico in a while. Another government official down in Mexico just got assassinated. I think it was yesterday. So that's about to explode. And Trump said I think it was last week, that he's not against bombing frickin' Mexico. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are all problems that we have. And by the way, we have senators that are pushing insurrections here over in the United States of America. This is not a very good time. There's a reason I shifted drastically away from foreign policy and was like, we need to pay attention to America because the amount of crap that we have going on in our own country. It is a huge deal, and it is a big deal to me, and I hope it's a big deal to you, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm going to be coming back at this time. Tomorrow night. So make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, make sure your notifications are turned on. Make sure you're coming back. Even if you get a notification on your screen, click that sucker for me, even if you're going to go watch it later, because otherwise YouTube's going to stop pushing you guys out notifications. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I know it was informative for me. I appreciate you guys that are saying I'm still based and all that other crap, because it hurts my feelings when people don't think I'm based. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here.